Okay, great. My name is Jordana Kaiser, and I'm a tech coach at Buchanan High School. I have a background in teaching history, economics to seniors, and so you'll see a lot of secondary examples today. If you're a primary teacher, this is still for you because the basics is changing a PDF, a Word document, or maybe even a PowerPoint presentation into a Google application, and so that you can make it digital and post it on Google Classroom for your kids to do online. And so that's going to be the focus today. I will keep going until there are questions. Feel free to ask in the middle. You don't have to save questions till the end because I know in the midst of something might pop up that you want to ask. So feel free to ask lots of questions and we'll get started. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys and show you how I like to use Google Classroom. For Google Classroom, you'll notice if you have it and you're used to it, you have your stream right here. I'm using my Buchanan teacher training page in order to protect privacy of previous students. But for me, when I'm in Google Classroom, a lot of my time is spent on the Classwork tab. So we're going to spend a lot of time on this Classwork tab. What I like to do for Classwork, for those of you who are new to Google Classroom, is use the topics as units. So I categorize each topic by units usually. So it'd be unit 1, macroeconomics, unit 2, unit 3. That way it creates a filing system for your students to know where they're going and what they're looking at. For the purposes of this teacher training, everything is organized by topic of Edulastic or Pear Deck in Google Classroom. And so my teachers can go to their one-stop shop and find every training that I've done on Google Classroom. So what I like to do typically is I have a lot of Word documents that I need to convert. And so we're going to get to Google Classroom in a little bit, but there's a lot on the back end that you have to do with an assignment, as I'm sure that you guys know. And so what we're going to have to do is open up a Word document. And so I go to my file, and I am working in my documents on my computer right now, going to documents, going to Buchanan. And so you're going to find the file that you want to convert. So for me, it's typically we'll go to my government class, and unit 2 is the Constitution. I typically would have a Constitution scavenger hunt. You'll notice the little W. This implies that it's a Word document. And so I just want to show you guys what it looks like before. Typically, you'll be right here. You'll be looking at it beforehand in your Word document. And so I'm like, okay, this is the assignment. I know where to find it. This is where I want it in my Google Drive. So then you come back here and go to a new tab and come over to your waffle. I'm going to need to move everyone over here. And you're going to open your drive. Now, when you open your drive, sorry, everyone, I keep moving you around. I typically go new, file, upload, and I'm uploading something from my computer. So I'm going to the same thing you just saw me do, my documents, going to Buchanan, government, and I'm sure you guys have files that are categorized like this or whatever your system is. I'm going to the Constitution and I'm finding that Word document that's a Constitution scavenger hunt. So I click on that and I'm opening it. What I'm doing right now is I am having this download to my drive. I need this in my drive in order to change it to a Google Doc. If you post a Word document on your Google Classroom, kids can convert it themselves, but I try and take all the work out of it for them. So all my students have to do is complete an assignment and turn it in. So once this is done downloading, you just open it and you'll see that it has been converted, but it's still a Word document. So you want to go to this drop down, open with Google Docs, and it's opening. While this may seem like you have completed the steps, there's actually something you need to change. If you look up here at the top left, it says your title, Constitution Scavenger Hunt .docx. What that means is it is still, in fact, a Sorry, my lights go off in here. It is still, in fact, a Word document, so you need to do one final step, the most important step. Go to File, Save as Google Docs, and it will open a new tab, and this is the tab that you want to be working in. Once this tab finishes that conversion, you'll notice that now it is a Google Docs symbol. There is no more docx, and now this has been converted to a Google Doc. What I like to do is exit out of that previous assignment so I don't get too confused. So this looks nice. Your students are going to be able to type on it as long as you make a copy to each student, but I have found the most success in making it foolproof for students is by putting a box in there for your students to be able to type in. It makes it really clear. The formatting doesn't get off too bad. And so what I like to do in Google Docs, there's no text box, but there are tables. So I go Insert, Table, and I'm going to insert one single box. And what happens here is now you have a single table, but as your students type in it and they enter down and they type, the box expands. And so I really like this because then it allows my students freedom to type what they want, type as much as they want. There's no limit, and it will expand with them. So I know this may seem tedious. You can come back here, click on the end, go Insert, Table, One, and you can keep doing that, but I format as I go, so I'm going to delete that space. What I like to do, though, is I copy this whole table. I'm going to right-click and copy it, and then I'm going to come back down here to my number 3, right click and paste. And so for those of you who are a little more savvy, you might even take it one step further. I'm going to work on my formatting here. I come to the end. I find that if I'm in the end, it gives me no space in between, and I go Control V, and then I come down here, Control V. You'll see how fast this goes. Now that I've copied it, I'm just pasting it underneath each of these under each of these questions right here. So I'm just pasting this text box for every single assignment. I know it may seem redundant and you guys don't necessarily need to see me do this over and over again, but for the sake of this training, I want you to see how fast it can really go. We would put a timer on it. I know it seems tedious, but it is going fast. There are a lot of amendments. There are a lot of assignments. Your students are going to be able to type on this directly, and I'll show you how in a couple minutes. But I do this, and it does save me time in the long run, and then I never have to do this again. This document now is forever saved in my Google Drive, and if I wanted to, I go File, and I could go make a copy. And now instead of Constitution Scavenger Hunt, I could say this is my 2020, 2021 Constitution Scavenger Hunt if you want to save a new one for the following year. You don't necessarily have to because the way we're going to do it, your students aren't going to be typing on this specific document. They're actually going to be typing on their own. And so what I love about this is it's just really clean. It's really clear. There's nothing extraordinary about it. I didn't reinvent the wheel. It's just a way for me to allow my students to do this at home if they lost their paper, if they have a computer that they'd rather work on. I always allowed my students to do a paper copy if they wanted to, but the last few years I've been completely paperless in my room. And this is why. This is what I would do, just simple things to assignments I still wanted to do, but I felt that they could do digitally. And I had seniors, and so they're pretty responsible, and I felt like I was training them to go into the college setting, and a lot of their classwork is going to be done online. So this is what we have here, our Constitution Scavenger Hunt. It's already saved in your drive, and so now once you're done, you go back to your Google Classroom. So we're going to go back to our Google Classroom tab here, and we are going to first create a new topic, and we're going to call this topic Unit 2 for the sake of this presentation for teachers to see how I like to organize it. When you get a new topic, it does go to the very bottom, but the good news is you can move it up as many times as you want. There is no move to top button, which is a little tedious again, but as you learn these things in Google Classroom and Google Drive and Google Docs, you'll get used to them and you'll start finding shortcuts. So I'm just going to move this to the top for us. And this is a little closer to the top right now. So we are going to now create an assignment. I know that was a lot of work on the back end, but that is where the majority of the work actually is. So when you create an assignment, you're always going to go to the Classwork tab. That's super important. In the Classwork tab right here, you will have a lot of different options to create a quiz, to create an assignment, to reuse a post. What reusing a post is, we're not going to spend a lot of time on it, but reusing a post allows you to reuse something that you've used in previous years. So when I say I wanted to use something for the next year, I could just reuse a post from another class that I've already taught. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again, I'm not reinventing the wheel. If I still want to use that Constitution scavenger hunt, I just reuse the post from a previous class that I didn't archive. So right here, this create button is where all the magic happens. Something I do want to note, even though we're not spending time on it today, is this material button allows you to post material. This is where I would post my lectures. This is where I would post a PDF. This is where I would post like a survey link. Materials allow you to still put it under a topic, but there's no assignment attached to it. So you're like, here students, I want you to have my syllabus on Google Classroom, but you don't have to do anything with it. I would post it as a material. So there's tons of Google Classroom trainings, but today we're focusing on assignments. So let's get back to it. Assignment, you're going to press your assignment tab, and we're going to call this our Constitution scavenger hunt. And so I could type. You're going to give students as long of instructions or as brief of instructions as you want. When coming up to, I need to lose that. When you're looking at your assignment, sometimes I will have instructions on the top that I will just copy and paste into here, but for simplicity reasons, I'm just saying complete the scavenger hunt using the internet. We'll say using your textbooks. If your students have a class set of textbook in the room and then a textbook at home, this is really easy. This is what I've done in the past, and using your textbooks, complete all the questions. So I'm doing it really simple. Now what you're going to do is you're going to add. You're not going to create. You've already created it before you even got here. So you're going to add. And we're going to add from our Google Drive because we have now converted the file into a Google Doc. So it lives in your Google Drive. The nice thing about Google Drive is that it is usually under your recent. If you can't find it, a really quick hack is go back to your assignment and you can click this little star button, and if you didn't want to file it away or you didn't want to look for where it was, if you just click the star button on Google Classroom on the assignment, you can go to starred and all your starred items will be here, and you'll look at here is my new assignment. Okay, so I typically work in recent. Starred is a great hack for you too. So we're going to click our Constitution scavenger hunt, our second assignment in this unit, and I'm going to add it. Now, here's the most important step of this whole process right here. Do not miss this one. Once you've attached the document, there's a drop-down option for you. Right here it says it defaults to students can view file. You do not want that. You want to make a copy for each student. So now when we assign this to our class, every student on that roster will get their own copy. It'll say O2 Constitution Scavenger Hunt, Jordana Kaiser. O2 Constitution Scavenger Hunt, Sherry Johnston. Okay, and so every student has their own copy. They're working on it by themselves. It is their own. They turn it in. It's attached to their drive, saved in their Google Classroom documents. No one else can touch it. And so making a copy for each student is the most important step in Google Classroom that we will go over today. You'll see it a few more times so we really get it in your brain, and you do not want to miss this step. If you do miss this step, you cannot edit the post and redo it. You'll have to reuse the post and start from scratch. So make a copy for each student. Again, you click the drop down and click make a copy for each student. So right here on the 4, you will be able to click down and you can choose all the different classes you want to assign it to. I'm going to show you in Buchanan teacher training, but I would like to have my economics class, my other economics class, and I'm going to post it to those classes right now. So you'll notice it went to 3 classes. My category, I don't have categories set up right now in this classroom, but your categories could be whatever you want. You can set it up to quiz, test, assignment, participation. You can set your categories to whatever you want. For me, this would be a 15-point assignment. It does default to 100. I'm sorry about that, but just change it to 15. The due date, I'm going to say that this is due. We'll give them the weekend. We'll say that it is due on Monday. So on Monday, and then I do always give a time. It defaults to 11:59 p.m. and so if that's okay with you, but we'll say that I want it to default to 8 o'clock a.m. first thing Monday morning. You have the whole weekend. It's time to get it in. So then it will give a date and time for you. The reason that I love giving a due date and time is because if it comes in 1 minute after 8 a.m., it will say done late. And it will mark it, each student who completed their assignment late, it'll say in a nice little red letters, and so you don't have to necessarily keep track of that. Obviously, there's moments of grace that you can talk to a student, or even if they were absent, it'll say done late. That student will come up to you and say, hey, I actually turned this in on time. I had an extra day to do it. And so those are the conversations you have on the back end. But I do always time stamp it and a date. So on the topic, we are choosing our Unit 2 topic right here. And you can add rubrics if you've created them. Now, a couple more things. I would just press assign right now. You do have a couple other options. I use this assign button a lot, but when you assign it to a single class, let me show you that. This only works on a single class, so I'm sorry to go back and forth, but you actually have the option to schedule an assignment. So say that I did not want this to go to my students today because I don't want to overwhelm them. I want it to go to my students tomorrow. And so then I would click that I want this to post on May 1st. Actually, tomorrow is April 30th. So we'll say we want it to post tomorrow at 8 a.m. So now they have from Thursday at 8 a.m. till Monday at 8 a.m. to complete this assignment. And if you press schedule, then it will not post on Google Classroom until tomorrow at 8 a.m. Okay. I do this a lot when I am planning ahead and I'm just getting ahead of the game and I schedule out all my assignments. Being that you can only do it for one class, what you have to think about is, do you want to schedule it out so that third period doesn't see it when first period sees it? Is that worth it to you, or would you rather post to all classes at once? Because if you want to post to all classes at once, you cannot schedule anymore. The scheduling feature is worth its time, in my opinion, because I just schedule it out and reuse the post and create a new time and schedule it out. I did my entire maternity leave scheduling out post, and it's just really nice because it only pops up at the date and time that you want it to in each individual class. So I do love to schedule. If you have more questions about scheduling, you can ask me later or ask them in the chat, but that is how you schedule. For the purposes of right now, we are just going to assign it. So once you have your title, your instructions, you make sure, double, triple check that you've made a copy for each student and you've assigned it to all the classes that you want. You are then going to assign. So once we assign it to our class, it's going to, again, sorry for the lights. It is going to take a second. You'll notice everything's grayed out. There's nothing I can do here, and it is assigning, okay? And so when it assigns, you'll notice it's right here, Constitution Scavenger Hunt. What I love about this is when I click on it, you can see I have 105 Buchanan teachers in this, so they all probably got notifications just now that an assignment had been added to their Google Classroom. So 105 students have had this assigned. Now it says 0 have turned it in. Assigned is a really nice way of Google to say that it has not been completed yet. It's assigned, they've done nothing, okay? And so once students start turning it in, that number will shift. It'll say 1 turned in, 104 assigned, and you can keep track of it that way. So this is really great. We're actually gonna go in here and view the assignment in case you've never viewed it before. When you view an assignment, you can see these are all Buchanan teachers that are in here. And so it has been assigned to every single teacher. And so you'll see a little thumbnail of your students. And if you assign this in class and your students were working individually on a project, and then you're working with a different group of students on their upcoming presentation, and you want to monitor, you are able to click on a student's assignment on these thumbnails and open it and see them typing in real time. And so this is a really great tool because I can see if Kelly is typing anything, I can give her comments on here, and you'll notice that it is titled right here. If you go to this little box that says open a new window, you'll notice that at the top of our previously 02 Constitution Scavenger Hunt, it says Kelly Betancourt. And so on every student's assignment, you'll see Becca Blanchett. And then you can click through and see all your different students' names, and that's how you know that you made a copy to each student. So it's just really great. This is a whole different platform. We can talk about grading and viewing your students' work in Google Classroom. And if you guys have questions at the end about this, I will come back to it, but I want to keep talking about our different assignments. So coming back to this tab, these are the thumbnails of student work. You can enter grades here, you can enter your different points, and so it's just a really nice way for you to go to your different students' classes. So here's your instructions, and then this will take you to the original copy of the Constitution Scavenger Hunt. So if you're like, where is my student's work? This is not what you click on. You would go and look at the student work tab. Okay. So unless there's no questions about converting a Word document to a Google Doc, we'll move on. Okay. So moving on, what I would like to show you is a lot of you may have PDFs. And so converting a PDF.
Oh, Jordana, I am so sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I was trying to unmute myself, but that bar is blinking at the bottom and I couldn't click it fast enough, it would disappear. So someone did ask a question.
Okay.
Is there a way to view your assignments, material, etc. as a student that would allow you to view them as a student before you post? And I just responded, there's no way to do that unless you can get a co-teacher maybe to create a dummy class for you to join as a student. They recreate that assignment for you to go in there and view to see what the kids would see. You can do a screencast of that if necessary to show your students how to do the assignment and turn it in. So if you can find a coworker that could do that for you, that would be great. Are there any other ideas that you might have that would make that work?
That's actually everything Sherry just said is the perfect answer to that. There is no real way to see that. Something that I have done is exactly what Sherry's saying, like I'm just a student in someone else's class. And so that has allowed me to do things in the past, but there's no easy way to go click and go to student view. So I'm sorry about that. Was there another question?
Oh, and Karina popped in and she said, give feedback to Google.
Give feedback to Google. So if you
Yeah.
guys want to give feedback to Google, see this little question mark? It's always at the bottom right, no matter where you are. If you're on the classes page, bottom right, you click this little question mark and you can go report issue or request a feature. And the more of us requesting features, the better. And so they really do listen. And so you can request those features. Thank you, Karina and Sherry. Yeah, there's no great way to view it as a student. And so it just comes with practice, and you'll become, the more you do this, the more confident you'll become in what your students can view. And that's why I like doing things like this with the Constitution scavenger hunt, because there's no real way that they're going to change this up. And so that's what I appreciate about the text boxes and the formatting. And then I don't have to give too many instructions like type in a different color so I can read it, or there's none of that. It's just they write in the table and then it goes from there. So the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll become. Any other questions before moving on?
No, you're good to go on.
Okay, so going back to our drive, now I have done a Word doc. What we're going to do is do a PDF. And so a word about PDFs real quick. They can be great to convert to a Google Doc or a Word document, or it can be really hard. And so on the really hard ones, the ones that change your formatting completely, don't waste your time on that. Post it as a PDF and just post another assignment as your question and answer. And your kids have been splitting their computer screens and working on 2 different things for years. We have first graders and second graders doing this all the time. I don't know, maybe Karina could speak to this. They might even have kindergartners doing this. Kids in our district are really tech savvy, and they've had a lot of practices with their tech coaches and splitting their screens. And so if a PDF is too hard to convert, don't worry about it. I'm going to show you an easy way to convert a PDF, because I know that the PDF could be pretty simple. So first step in converting a PDF is you're going to actually go to your documents, and you're going to have to do some stuff with Adobe on the front end before you even get to your drive, before you get to Google Classroom. So we're going to go to my Buchanan tab and my Google Classroom, and this we're going to do it with an article that is from a biology class here at Buchanan. So if you'll look, this is a PDF. It's a document, it's a little bit of reading, and then there's questions from part 1, 1, 2, 3, and then you have part 2 talking about sanitation, a few questions, 4, 5, 6. And so this is really great, but I want my students to be able to type right there and type on this. And so what I would do is I would export this PDF. What I want this PDF to become is a Microsoft Word document, because then I can easily convert it to a Google Doc like we just did. So this first step, let's go, I'm going to close it and show you again. If you are in Adobe Acrobat Pro DC, you're going to go to export PDF. You don't want it to be a PDF anymore. You need to change it and export it to something else. So when you export PDF, we're going to click Microsoft Word document and export. It's asking me where I want to save it. I do want to save it in my Google Classroom tab. Click on that and it will automatically save. And so it's exporting this file, and it should automatically open up my new document. The only thing you're going to do here is make sure that it opened the document, that everything looks good. I would like to point out how great this PDF transferred to a Word document. Again, this is worth my time to do. There might be a little bit of formatting on the next step, but this looks pretty good to me. I hope you can see why. I like the questions, the documents, it was all there. So that's it of Adobe and Microsoft Word. Now you go back to Chrome and you're going to go to your Google Drive. I need to say that where you file things is really important, because it just saves you time and where you know to look. So we're going to go New, File, Upload, and I know that I am going to my Google Classroom folder. And so right now we're going to the one that we made as a Word document. So this should look familiar to you. We did this with the first one. Here's our Word document. We're going to open it, and again, it's downloading in the bottom right. And so again, we have this little W, so we know it's Word. We're going to open it. Again, I hope these steps are familiar to you. Open with Google Doc. And does everyone remember, there is a very important step that we still have to do. So as this Word document opens as a Google Doc, it is not a Google Doc yet because you still have this .x. So go File, save as Google Docs, and then it will open your new tab with your Google Doc option. And so again, once this is done loading and I know that everything is there, I am going to exit out of that tab right before it because I don't want to get confused between my Google Doc and my Word doc. So I'm going to exit out of this DocX, and I'm only going to work here. Now with your PDF, typically you would have your students write your names, but now as you've seen in Google Classroom, it already titles it with their name on it for them, and they'll submit it with their name. So this is redundant, you don't need it, and so I just delete it. Okay, and so I'm going to format a little bit here. You'll notice some of these, and I'm sorry that it's tedious, but once you do it once, you don't have to do it the rest of the time. As many years as you use this, you'll never have to do this part again, so bear with me, but you want to look through here. And working class, some reason, made it one word, so you just give it a space. Well connected. You always want to be sure that you're reading over these documents for your students because you just want to save them time and confusion. And so giving those spaces, making sure that the format is right. Like, you don't necessarily have to change that space, but you can. So right here we have our number 1. I would still do surprise, surprise. I would insert my table, a single table, and then it would allow my students to write it down. Right here, we're going to delete the 2 because it did that, and then we're going to clear the spaces. Again, I would take this, I would right click, copy, and come down here, right click, paste. And again, because it's already reading those formatting numbers, I'm just going to delete it. I'm sorry if these are like the tedious things that make or break it for you, but for me, it's worth it on the back end. I don't have piles of papers anymore. They're doing it online. Everything they need is in one document right here. And so I know they can't lose it. They can always access it. And so for me, it is worth the time. So I'm just going to right click, paste, delete, and then I'm going to show you how fast this can go. So I'm actually going to go Control V here because that's what I would normally do, and it would go a lot faster. I'm going to delete some of these spaces, Control V. And so as you go through here, like I said in the first one, I format as I go because it does save time for me. Keep in mind when you're putting these tables right here, as students type, your formatting is going to change. There might not be 4, 5, and 6 on one page right here. 4 might move down all the way, and then 5 and 6 might be on this next page. And so just be okay with that. Be flexible. It won't be frozen forever like a PDF would. It would expand as your students' writing expands. So on here, I would come down, and this gets a little tricky based on the data shown in the map. So what I might do if I were you is because that is all going to come down here, I would probably enter these down and just move that map over. I hope this makes sense as why. For my formatting, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to just click that I want this centered. Okay, and so I'm going to move that centered. And again, when your students are typing, this will move down, and this picture could very well be that it ends up on the same page as these. And so if this is going to see if I can format it. Okay, so it's not going to change it very well. So if you don't care, you can leave it. I honestly, for the sake of time, I'm going to leave it right now, but you could just what I would do is most likely I would retype this. And so I would come down here and I would type based on the data shown, in the map, and you'll notice it's just typing normal, which pump is the most likely source of that. And so I would start typing it right here, okay? Because I do care about formatting. I want it to look good, and it will save me time on the back end, but for the sake of your time right now in this video, we will just leave it here, and I'll just put this as example of retyping. Okay. So again, we're taking our text box, right click, copy, come down, we're going to paste, and then you'll notice all this got moved like I said it would. So I'm going to delete it, bring it up, clear those spaces. And so now you're working on part 4. Coming down, we're in number 12, copy, paste, delete those spaces. I know this is redundant, I'm sorry. I think some questions are coming in, so I hope this is giving you some answers as we go through this. So that formatting time, again, you're doing it right now on the front end, but you don't have to do it next year when you give this same assignment. So I do love it. I think it is worth my time coming here. If you want it to just keep that way, you can take this, you can take your, what am I trying to call this? This table, and you can change the formatting by grabbing this. If I could grab it, it's not letting me, so you could just enter down a little bit. Sorry, the light went off again. Okay, and so again, delete your formatting here, add it in. And so as you do this, our steps on the next part are going to be the same. What we're going to do is we're going to add an assignment in Google Classroom. This is, these are your resources, so you can leave them there, but your students aren't going to have to do anything. And so if you wanted to delete them, you could, or you could just move them up here so that you saved yourself space. Okay, so now this is our document and questions ready to go. Again, you're in Google Docs, so it's automatically saving to your Google Drive. So we're going to come back here to Buchanan Teacher Training, going to our Classwork tab once again, and we're going to create a new assignment. Okay, what I like to do to save myself time and energy is I just copy and paste the title so that I don't have to retype it. I use copy and paste more often than I probably should, but I love it. And so read the document and answer the corresponding questions, period. Okay. You might want to give your students more of an explanation. Again, for seniors, it's pretty self-explanatory, and it typically goes with what we've already done in class, or I've assigned it in class and it's just homework. So I go to add, and again, we're adding from our Google Drive. And then we are going to use our recent assignment. What's really important here, and I'm so glad you get to see it, is this is a Google Doc, but this, you'll notice with the W, is the Word document, because we did save the Word document in our drive. Do not click on the Word document. It is the Google Doc that you want. So we're going to click on the Google Doc. These little icons are super important. Use them, look at them, appreciate them. And so we're going to add. Now, who remembers the biggest thing you have to do right here? The most important step in all of Google Classroom is changing what your students can do. You don't want students to view the file. You want to make a copy for each student, okay? As you make a copy for each student, again, it's going to their drive, it's saving in their own folder, it's attached to their Google Classroom. All they're gonna have to do is click a turn-in button at the top right of their document, so it makes it really simple for your students. So now we're going to add it to Buchanan Teacher Training. We're adding it to economics classes because a lot of you secondary teachers are going to have multiple classes of the same topic, and they're all going to do this assignment, so just assign it all at once. Those of you primary teachers who just have one class, you're just going to add it to your Mrs. Kaiser's third grade class, whatever it is titled, okay? And so you'll just choose your classes. And right here, it does say all students. I want all my students to get this assignment. Grading category, we're not going to choose one because I don't have them set up in this classroom. And then this is going to be, typically my assignments are 10 points. So we're going to do 10 points. That Constitution scavenger hunt was pretty lengthy, and that's why I give it 15 points. The due date, we're going to say that we're assigning this today, and so I want the due date to actually be Friday. And I'm going to say that they have through all of Friday. I'll give them till 11:59 p.m. And the topic, we'll pretend that this is also Unit 2 so that you can see how Unit 2 goes through it. And so the topic is Unit 2, and then we're going to click the blue button as soon as we make sure one last time that we made a copy for each student. And so now they'll be able to type on this new Google Doc resource that was once PDF. And so as it's assigning, you just wait, and then it'll assign to all of your individual classes that you assigned it to. Do you have any questions about PDF to a Word doc to a Google Doc?
No questions so far. Just a conversation about trying to view the Google Classroom as a student. So, and
Okay.
and Karina's statement rings true. Just make sure you give Google feedback, because you're not the only one in this boat. Thousands of teachers are in the same boat. So
Absolutely, and that's great advice. I mean, they really do listen, and a lot of these updates in Google Classroom that if you're just starting to use it seem normal to you, a lot of this is new to all of us because they keep listening to teachers and making Google Classroom better. So definitely put those comments in. Okay, we have a little bit of time left. I'm going to try and show you two other things. The next thing that I like to do is, actually, I'm going to try and show you three other things. I don't want math to get forgotten, and I have been saying this for a very long time that I do think math can be done on Google Classroom depending on the assignment. And so a lot of our teachers right now are posting the assignments, and students take a picture of their math assignment and just attach their picture as their document. For some assignments that only have numbers in the equation, and if you didn't have to, let's say, like, write on it and show your work, you could just take a PDF and go to Google Drawings. And so let me show you how to do that. I'm not sure if many of you are familiar with Google Drawings, but if we go to a new tab and you come to your waffle over here and you look for Google Drawings, by Google Drawings, we'll go to our drive, okay? And so if we say new, come down, instead of, we want new and more, and then we're going to come over here to Google Drawings. A lot of your math assignments are going to be PDFs. And so if you don't want to convert the PDF, but you want your students to be able to type on it and still turn it in on Google Classroom, I feel like this Google Drawing option might be a good one, though not as familiar as everything else. So we're going to leave our Google Drawing tab right here. You can go drawings.google.com to get to Google Drawings, or you can go from your drive or your waffle. But we're going to come down here to our files on our computer. And so still in my Buchanan folder, I go to Google Classroom, and I have this day one PDF of completing the square. So if you look, this is 2 pages right here. And so I know this might not seem ideal, but if you want to just have your students type on it, they're either typing letters or numbers, this could still work on Google Classroom as long as you don't need to see their work. So if you go export PDF, we actually want to create it in an image for what I'm going to show you with Google Drawings. So we're going to export the image, and we are going to save it in Google Classroom. Click on that folder, and it is going to most likely download 2 pictures for you. So we're going to save it. Find it exists. Do you want to overwrite it? Yes, for the sake of this, so you can see it. And so as it is downloading, we are going to come back here. And what I want to do is this day one completing the square is exactly what I want to title it for my students. Day one completing the square. So when you come here, you're going to go, first thing I like to do is make the page the same. And so, sorry, I'm going to move you. We're going to go to page setup. And I'm going to make a custom page, and I want it to be as simple as possible. I want it to be 8.5 by 11. I am making it exactly how my page should look. So when I go to insert, and I'm going to image, I'm going to upload from my computer, and I'm in Google Classroom. I'm going to go to page 1, and no, I have to do this again for page 2. So page 1, open. And so what I forgot to do was go type in day 1, page 1. Okay, completing the square. So this may seem small to you right now. If you want to look at it, we can go to 200% and look. The quality came through. Your students will get good at this. You'll teach them how to zoom in and work on it. But now you have created your PDF that's been a PDF in math for years into a Google Drawing, and we're going to make it digital. So what you can do in your Google Drawing is you can actually create a text box, what we couldn't do in Google Docs. So we're going to take our text box, and we're going to put it right here. And what I like to do with my text box is now I want to give my text box a line, and I want it to be color so my students know where to write. So I'm going to right click on this text box. I'm going to copy. I'm going to come right click here, and I'm going to paste, and I'm going to drag my text box so that they could type, find the value of C that completes the square. So that is going to be a number. And so they can type a number easily. I know this is math, and all you're asking them to do is find the value of C. You're not asking for work. They can just put the value of C here. And so this is really a great way to do it. I'm going to go Control C, Control V, drag my text box there, Control V, come down here. And so right here we have page 1 started, find the value that completes the square, rewrite as a perfect square. So your text box here might want to be a little bit bigger. Oh, Control Z. So when you come down here, and then I just make it really easy on my students. I'm going to copy this new box, and then I'm going to paste it, drag this one over here. And so you'll see that this math document is becoming pretty clear, and your students will be able to type on it. So once we do this, we have one more step. We need to go File, make a copy, and we're saying this is going to be day 1, page 2 of completing the square. So we go, okay, and it's going to open a new one. The reason that I do it both at the same time is so that I don't forget, because now I have to upload a completely different picture. So I'm going to take the picture and I'm going to delete it. I'm going to leave my text boxes there because chances are I'm going to need very similar ones since this is the same assignment. I'm going to insert an image, upload from my computer, and I'm going to click on page 2. And so it's copied to page 2, and then we are going to stretch it, and let's get into a closer view. That's a little too close. We'll go to 100%, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to send this picture to the back. So now you'll see your text boxes that you already created. And so it gets really simple. Again, you're never going to have to do this again for this document. It will already be done. And so you can see how simple it becomes. And I realize, oh, there's a couple more questions. So I'm going to right click, copy, and then I'm going to right click, paste, drag that here, right click, paste. And so now my new assignment is pretty much done. So that's page 2. So we have pages 1 and 2 for the assignment, and we're going to post both to the assignment for our students. So we go to Classwork, create. This should be getting normal for you. We're going to day 1 completing please complete the assignment, type in the text boxes, and turn in on Google Classroom. Okay, so I'm going to go add Google Drive, and now both of my assignments should be in my recent. You'll see day 1, page 2, day 1, page 1. I'm going to click both of these by holding shift down, and I'm going to add. So you'll notice the day 1, page 1 is there, day 1, page 2 is there, and now I have 2 assignments, 2 posts that I need to go make a copy for each student, make a copy for each student. And so now every student will have 2 of these. They click on one, complete it, click on another, complete it. It's attached in their assignment already. And so then they just press turn in, okay? So again, we're going to go to our classes, click which classes you want. We'll say this is a pretty big assignment. We'll give them 15 points for it, okay? Due date, we'll say that the due date is in fact today to make it simple, but we'll give them till 11:59 p.m. And then the topic, again, we'll put it in Unit 2 so that you can clearly see it, and then we are going to assign it. And so that is how I would do it in math. I like the text box options. You could very well do it with your Google Doc. In Google Docs, you can contact me separately and we can talk about how to use Equatio, which is an equation writing Chrome extension that you can use in Google Docs, but I just wanted to pull in Google Drawings in case you haven't done that before. Google Drawings, your students can use lines and create graphs, and it can be matching. And so Google Drawings is a really great tool that doesn't get a lot of press, so I wanted to bring that up today. Does anyone have any questions, being that we only have 9 minutes left, or would you just like me to keep going?
There's no questions yet.
Okay.
No, your pacing is good. So yeah, if you want to just keep looking forward.
Something that I love to do is I use a lot of crash course videos in my economics classes. And so since you guys are pretty used to seeing me convert a Google Doc to a Google Doc from a Word document, we're going to skip that step right now, but we're going to go to my drive, and I want you to see that I have some crash course Google Docs already created, okay? And so this is a crash course Google Doc, and these are questions, and you'll notice the formatting looks very similar, but this is something, crash course congressional committees. And so if I want a video, I can Google that on YouTube. So I will show you how. First, we're going to go back, and what I want my students to do is view the crash course and complete this Google Doc assignment. So on my Classwork page, I'm going to create an assignment. Very similar, I'm going to paste that title, Crash Course Congressional Committee. Watch the crash course video and complete the Google Doc assignment, answer all the questions, okay? So very simple, I'm going to add Google Drive, and I'm going to add that Google Doc that I've already created. Now my students, I want a copy for each student that is always the same, but what we're doing a little bit differently right now is I actually want to attach the YouTube video link to this assignment as well. And so I'm going to go add YouTube, and I'm just going to search what that YouTube video was, Crash Course Congressional Committees. And so on my assignment, I always title it the same as the video, so it's easy for me to search. Congressional Committees, number 7, there it is. I click, I add, and now my students can watch the video. It's 8 minutes, and they can answer the crash course. Like I said earlier, your students as early as elementary school are splitting the screen, watching this, answering, pausing it, answering, and so they're really tech savvy. And so trust your students, they're going to be really good at doing this. I'm going to post it to all my different classes. I'm going to give this a 10-point assignment. The due date, we will say, we'll give them a week to do this because this is our next round of homework. We'll say we'll give them till 11:59 p.m. and post it in our Unit 2 topic assignment. So on this, you can go assign. And so now every student has a copy of that assignment and they get to watch their YouTube video. It makes it really nice because when you post a video on here, crash courses, as you know, if you've ever used them, are really fast moving, and so it allows them to pause and have control over their video watching, and so it takes a lot of that pressure and anxiety off to get everything the first time, and students can rewatch it if they want. So everything we've done today, we've posted in this Unit 2 tab, and so as a student, you can go to Unit 2 and see what were all my assignments I need to complete, and it tells them this is due May 8th, this is due tomorrow. And so then they get to prioritize based on when it's due. And so you can see if you click on this crash course assignment, 105 students have been assigned, 0 have turned it in. You can go to view assignment, and it will give you the thumbnail of each of their Google Docs assignments. Okay, any other questions? Okay.
Yeah, no questions right now.
Great.
Are you planning on covering anything in forms and pulling in a form?
Yes, I can. So for those crash course documents, I used to do it in a Google form. So if you go to crash course on my page, let's go over here. My internet is unavailable. Okay, so we'll just go back to this. If you go to your beginning teacher training and you go to Classwork and you create a quiz assignment, this will automatically create and attach a blank quiz to Google Classroom. So we can call it crash course congressional committees. And I used to have them do it on a Google form because then I could see who completed it. I could, if there was a right or wrong answer, I could grade it as a quiz, and Google Forms would grade it for me. So complete the Google form after watching this video. So I would add that same video on YouTube, paste it right here, search it. There it is. I'm going to add it, and then I would open my Google Forms right here. When it says locked mode on Chromebooks, this is a really great tool if you're using Google Forms to quiz your students in the classroom. If they're on a Chromebook, it'll lock their screen. They can't search anything else on the internet until they complete that quiz. So that is a really great tool. And something else that's really awesome is grade importing. Grade importing is wonderful if you are going to use it as a quiz and not just a survey. So if you open your blank quiz, this is already attached to this Google Classroom assignment. So you're going to want to title it what it is, Crash Course Congressional Committees. You can go here, Crash Course Congressional Committees. And so on this, you can just start typing your questions. Again, I use my copy paste often. So I'm going to go to this and I'm going to get it from my Google Drive, Crash Course Congressional Committees. And I'm just going to copy and paste my questions. Why does Congress have a congressional committee? And so I would right click, right click, copy, and then I would come to my right here. Why does Congress have committees? And then typically what's going to happen is you can come over here and make it a short answer, or I like to do paragraph and give my students options. I'm going to require every question here. And so something that I like to do is I like to just duplicate it. So now all that I have to change is already required. I already have a paragraph answer, and all I have to change is the question. So I come back here and I'm going to copy and paste my next question. And so it defaults to multiple choice. How many standing committees are there in the Senate and House of Representatives? That's really nice of Google Forms to do, because you're like, oh, you could write 1, you could write at all, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But if you want your students to have to think about it, you could delete a couple of these and you can say 100. You could say 50. You can start typing in your questions, and then when you go to answer key, then you would just click the bubble that you wanted it to be, and then that would be correct, and Google Forms would grade it for you. And so Google Forms is really easy to use. When you come back here, your Google Forms, it will open, and it will actually, even though it didn't title it, it will take you directly to that Google Form. And so that Google Forms is great. I could spend hours, I have spent hours doing trainings on Google Forms, and so it's wonderful in Google Classroom as an assignment and as a quiz.